Welcome to AnimeFan Narrations, Solo Leveling Episode 53.
He was on the verge of inheriting the Yoo Guild, the future cornerstone of Yoo Construction's operations, yet he dared to respond like that?
I've decided to work for Youngnim's guild.
Work for his Youngnim's guild?
That foolish boy got what he deserved.
Yoo Myunghwan scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. If his son wanted to carve his own path, he would have to shoulder all the responsibilities that came with it. The father resolved to teach him that every choice carried its own consequences. Perhaps it was the mounting frustration, but his tie seemed to resist his every attempt to undo it. His hasty fingers only made the knot worse, causing the tie to tighten further. The lady of the Yoo household stepped in with a soft chuckle and reached for his hands.
Let me take care of that for you.
In no time, her deft fingers unraveled the stubborn knot with ease. Yoo Myunghwan let her work, leaning into her familiar touch. But then she began to giggle while holding his tie.
What's so funny?
He looked at her quizzically. She had been tying his ties for years. This was hardly something new or amusing.
My dear, are you sure you're really upset?
Had she eaten something odd? Why was she saying such strange things? Yoo Myunghwan frowned slightly and turned to the mirror to check his reflection. He was taken aback. Despite all the grumbling he had been doing just moments ago, his face betrayed none of his supposed anger. Instead, he looked oddly pleased. Feeling self-conscious, he rubbed his cheeks and chin, trying to compose himself.
This must be the first time, isn't it, dear?
What are you talking about?
Jinho standing up to you.
That was the root of his anger. Just as water naturally flows downhill, a large corporation cannot thrive unless directives from the top are properly communicated and adhered to. Yoo Myunghwan believed this principle applied to running a family as well. For this reason, he maintained the same strict, authoritative demeanor at home as he did in the office, refusing to tolerate anyone defying his decisions. And yet, even though he was undeniably angry today, there was a peculiar absence of displeasure.
I'm mad, but I'm not upset at the same time.
The contradiction puzzled him as he reflected on it. The madam's gentle voice interrupted his thoughts, carrying a soothing tone akin to a mother comforting a child. It was as if she had already pieced together her husband's inner turmoil.
Jinho is pursuing something he truly cares about for the first time in his life. Why not set aside your anger and support him instead?
Yoo Myunghwan pressed his lips tightly together. Even he was struggling to make sense of his feelings right now.
For now, I'll watch how things unfold.
Of course.
The madam smiled warmly and took his jacket as he slipped it off. But just as she did so, something unusual occurred. Yoo Myunghwan's eyes lingered on her face.
This is odd.
What's odd, dear?
I can see two of you.
Pardon?
Before the madam could process his words, Yoo Myunghwan's body swayed and he staggered on his feet.
Dear?
Alarmed, she rushed to steady him. He shook his head repeatedly, his breaths growing shallow and uneven. Her eyes widened in alarm.
Why is he sweating so much?
Yoo Myunghwan fought to keep his eyes open, desperately trying to fend off the sudden wave of fatigue. But despite his efforts, his body gave in, and he collapsed into unconsciousness. Yoo Myunghwan awoke in the VIP suite of the nation's most prestigious university hospital. One of the attending physicians approached him, their team working in rotating 24-hour shifts to monitor his condition closely.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yoo Myunghwan surveyed his surroundings and quickly deduced where he was.
How long have I been here?
You've been unconscious for 2 days.
2 days? If anyone epitomized the term workaholic, it was Yoo Myunghwan. Throughout his life, he had never indulged in more than 5 hours of sleep a day, regardless of how exhausted he might have been. He kept his composure, remaining silent before responding in an unaffected tone.
It seems I was more tired than I thought.
Recently, he had been inundated with an endless stream of responsibilities. The sudden dizziness and overwhelming fatigue could easily be attributed to those stresses. Yet the doctor's expression betrayed a deeper concern. Yoo Myunghwan, as the leader of the country's most influential corporation, was a seasoned observer of people's emotions and reactions. The doctor's somber demeanor didn't escape his notice. Recognizing this, Yoo Myunghwan's gaze sharpened, and he asked directly,
Did you find something wrong with my health?
Solo Leveling Chapter 99.
Chairman, do you happen to know anyone close to you who is a hunter, or perhaps someone who hasn't awakened yet but has been assessed as having potential?
The doctor's question came out of nowhere, sounding odd and unrelated. Yoo Myunghwan had just asked if there was an issue with his health, so why was the doctor bringing up hunters? Feeling perplexed, Yoo Myunghwan pressed for clarification.
What exactly are you implying? Why bring up hunters all of a sudden?
Have you ever heard of eternal sleep?
The term eternal sleep visibly unsettled Yoo Myunghwan, and his usually steady gaze faltered for the first time. The eternal sleep disorder. A condition where the victim falls into an unending slumber from which they can never awaken. The ailment not only caused its sufferers to enter a death-like sleep, but also drained their vitality at a rapid rate. Those afflicted had to rely on life support machines powered by magic energy to survive. This harrowing illness first emerged after the gates appeared. Many lives were claimed by it, especially among those who couldn't afford access to the magical life support systems.
It's a condition characterized by recurring bouts of extreme drowsiness, eventually leading to complete inability to wake up.
The doctor explained with a grim expression. To date, no one had ever emerged from the clutches of eternal sleep. Even with life support extending a patient's existence, their eyes would remain closed forever. For those affected, it was no different from receiving a death sentence. Yoo Myunghwan listened silently, waiting for the doctor to finish before asking the most pressing question on his mind.
And what does this have to do with hunters?
The eternal sleep is widely believed to have a strong connection to magic energy.
The doctor elaborated further. His tone weighted with concern.
There are individuals who, due to their natural constitution, are unable to handle magic energy effectively.
One of the symptoms observed in individuals exposed to high levels of magic energy over extended periods was this very condition known as eternal sleep disorder.
Wait, isn't magic energy the same power that runs the life support systems keeping these patients alive?
That's correct, but
The doctor explained further, comparing it to how electricity derived from a potentially hazardous nuclear reaction could be safely used. Similarly, magic energy utilized in devices and spells was harmless to humans.
the real dangers come from raw sources like magic crystals, mana stones, or direct exposure to individuals imbued with magic energy.
Individuals with magic energy.
Yoo Myunghwan's mind immediately turned to the only awakened in his family, his second son, Yoo Jinho. Sensing the tension, the doctor spoke carefully.
I understand your younger son is a hunter, Chairman.
At the mention of Yoo Jinho, Yoo Myunghwan's expression hardened noticeably.
So are you suggesting I should avoid seeing my own child? Is that what you're trying to say?
If it can prevent further complications, then yes, that is my professional recom.
Ridiculous.
Yoo Myunghwan sharply interrupted the doctor, his voice cutting like a blade.
Don't waste my time with such absurdities.
He waved his hand dismissively, clearly indicating the discussion was over.
Chairman,
The doctor hesitated briefly, unsure of how to proceed, but Yoo Myunghwan's piercing glare left no room for argument. Defeated, the doctor exited the room as if retreating from a battlefield. Still glaring at the door, Yoo Myunghwan's eyes smoldered with unrelenting anger.
Avoid my own son to prevent a potential worsening of the illness? Is that the kind of decision a father should even entertain?
Even if he were to consider such an action, how would Jinho feel upon learning his father was intentionally distancing himself? What thoughts would plague that young man's mind? Yoo Myunghwan, as a father, couldn't bring himself to impose such a burden on his son. That much he was sure of.
And beyond that?
Every day, advancements were being made in harnessing magic energy for practical use. Alongside these developments, the population of people naturally born with magic energy was steadily increasing. If living in a world saturated with magic energy meant you couldn't handle its presence, didn't that imply you were already rejected by the process of natural selection? Yoo Myunghwan scoffed, his displeasure evident.
Me, Yoo Myunghwan, failing to measure up?
That was inconceivable.
I refuse to surrender.
He was someone who had risen above every obstacle, proving his critics wrong time and time again. After taking over Yoojin Construction, ranked barely in the top 30 companies in the country, he transformed it into the leading powerhouse of South Korea.
So you think an illness like this will bring me down?
Defeat was not an option. Yoo Myunghwan repeated his determination silently, solidifying his resolve. Before departing, Jinwoo gently pushed open the door to his sister's room. It was still early morning, and Jinah was sound asleep, her rest so deep that even a kidnapping wouldn't stir her. A pang of concern struck him.
What if some idiot tries to approach her while I'm gone?
True, no one in their right mind would dare mess with the sister of a rank S hunter. But then again, humans were unpredictable creatures. He needed a precautionary measure.
Wait a second, my soldiers can hide in shadows, right?
He recalled the time when his shadow soldiers patrolled the area, anticipating the return of the serial killer. Back then, the soldiers moved seamlessly within the darkness, blending into the shadows around them. If he could use that ability here, Jinah could be protected without anyone realizing. And fortunately, he had the perfect candidates for the job.
Come out.
Jinwoo summoned the monster soldiers who had guarded fangs during their lives. 3 enormous high orcs materialized, their size making Jinah's already cozy room feel oppressively cramped. However,
Huh? Where's the fourth one?
he distinctly remembered there being 4 guards. As he racked his brain for answers, a silent groan escaped him.
Oh, right.
Only now did he recall leaving one of the guards embedded in the ceiling of the boss room. Naturally, he hadn't remembered to pull that guard's shadow.
I'll need to be more thorough next time.
Jinwoo let out a small smirk and shifted his attention to the 3 monster soldiers standing before him. These former High Orc guards, now shadow soldiers, were on a completely different level compared to the shadows taken from ordinary High Orcs. Each one of them was elite class. Even against a rank A hunter, these 3 wouldn't be outmatched. This wasn't mere speculation either. Sun Gi-hoon, the rank A leader of the Hunters' raid team, had struggled against 3 regular High Orcs during their encounter. With this trio on guard, there was no reason to worry. Jinwoo glanced toward his sister, still sound asleep, and gave a nod. At his silent command, the shadow soldiers dissolved back into shadowy forms, gliding across the floor to merge seamlessly into Jinah's shadow.
Perfect.
He silently instructed them, stay hidden, and if Jinah were ever in danger, eliminate the threat. No exceptions.
Thanks for watching Solo Leveling on AnimeFan Narrations. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for updates. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.